Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rachel Unpacked Podcast. I am your host, Rachel Medina, and I am so honored and privileged to have an amazing woman on the show. Thanks to Miss Denise San Pedro on the team that you hear me talk about all the time. She's like, Rachel, watch this woman. She is doing so many amazing things, and her name is Emily Frisella. How do you pronounce that? Perfect?
You got it right. Yes.
So I am going to go right off of her Instagram bio. Let me tell you, this woman does so many things. She is the founder of the Paper and Plan Co., three-time published author, Women in Business Workshop founder, COO of Arete Syndicate.
Arate. Yeah. You're so close. Yeah.
Arete Syndicate, which you may know because Mr. Ed Milet talks about it all the time, and your amazing husband, Andy. Listen, thank you so much for coming on. This episode is not only going to air on the Rachel Unpacked podcast, but also on video inside of the SHE.E.O platform and members community. So if you're wanting to watch this episode and see how amazing Emily looks and sounds and is, you can head on over to SHE.E.O and check it out. Emily, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I was looking forward to this.
So tell us, so I have a list of questions. I'm going to try to go right down the line so we could get a lot of value out of this interview. I think the main thing we want to know about you is, what is your think it and do it factor? I always say I'm really great at shortening the runway between having the idea and doing the thing. Okay.
Mhm.
So what is it with all these things? What is it that is your process, or is there a specific thing that you do that you go, I thought it, this feels right, I'm going to roll with it?
Yeah, I think that all, boils down to being decisive. I'm a hyper decisive person. When I decide I'm going to do something, I just do it. I would love to say there's this like wonderful pattern of thought that goes into it, but that's not it. It's like, hey, if I think like, you know what, we're going to do this, I immediately start on that like right away. And if it's something that I need resources for my team, I send out a text message to all of them or an email and let them know like, hey, we're going to do this. This is how we're going to market it. This is what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. Give them the details on it. And then we meet the next day about it and we take action. And that's a lot of, I think, what holds people up is that they think about the idea so much to the idea has an expiration date on it. So it's something that when you think of something like that you want to create, that you want to do, that you want to put out there, no matter if it's actually like a physical item, a digital product, you have to take action immediately on that idea, because I find that's when you're most passionate about it. And that's when you get the best product, instead of sitting there and letting the idea kind of get watered down in your mind. It's just saying, I'm going to do it while I'm excited. And that's always been the best impact for me. And it's got the best results.
I absolutely love that. I can say I'm the same way. And the times that I've been too careful, it's been a mistake. I really have gotten to get comfortable with failing forward and not being afraid of running past home plate. And you're going to learn from all those mistakes as well. So there is a thing in corporate America, which I come from, which is like paralysis by analysis, is what they call it. And if you overthink it, you are going to stall out. It's not that complicated. Just go, just go, just go.
Yeah. And a lot of people, they wait to that perfect time. But the thing is, there's never going to be a perfect time. And I always relate this because I work a lot with women as you. And I always think about it like, think about the saying, they always say like, oh, you're not ready for kids until you have them. Same thing with an idea. Like, you're never going to be ready for that. You just got to jump in and do it. And then you figure it out. Part of being an entrepreneur or entrepreneur is you jump and build the net on the way down.
Yeah. Okay. So I love that I love everything. You guys are like, Rachel, you're loving everything about what she's saying. So since I was very young, my mom used to say, how did you even get the courage to do that? I go, I just leap and I know a net's going to appear. Yeah. And I don't know where I heard that from. I was like 18 years old. I'm like, I'm leaping and a net's going to appear. And it does, you guys, it literally does. You might get bumped and bruised and scraped along the way. Even all of that is working for your greater good, and it's going to contribute to the value of what you're doing. So this is absolutely perfect. Okay. So the next thing I have for you is the money mindset. I know that when we built, Denise and I, we built the first business, it was like a 7-figure business. And I really struggled with that. You grew up your whole life. I don't know about you. For me, it was like, oh, if I could just make, $1 million, I would do blah, blah, blah. And then you see those numbers. And for me, it was like, oh, I can't spend it. I can't do it. I don't know. Like, it's probably going to dry up. It's not real. For you guys, for you, how has that been wrapping your mind around the money part of it?
Yeah. So I think that was something I had to kind of break free of, that mentality and get over the scarcity mindset. because I grew up on a farm. My dad was a very successful entrepreneur, owned trucking companies and brokerage firms my entire life. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. We lived a very good life, but they never spoiled us. They never they let us know that like they had money. We did not. We had to work for it.
Yeah.
And it made me a very avid saver because I started working 2 jobs at 14 because I started my first business, bought my first house when I was 19 and bought my first building and lot and property to start my first brick and mortar business when I was 20. And all that took a lot of savings and to get very conscientious with my funds. And it gave me the best gift of being, sorry, my dog walked in here. So if you see her rolling around or like snorts, she's a bulldog, so she's loud. But I saw her walk in. I was like, oh no. But so it's getting over that scarcity mindset, because again, it's like I always thought like I can't spend my money. I have to save it. It's going to dry up. But then I found that actually when I thought that way, I was almost telling the universe or God, whatever you want to say, I was putting that vibration out there that if I spend it, it's going to be gone. And then that actually started happening. I ran into my first business. I talk about it in my latest book that was published, but it's like, I talk about that where it's like, I was running out of funds. I had some terrible financial situations going on that I had to get out of. It's when I broke free of that scarcity mentality and realizing the cliche of it takes money to make money.
Yes.
When I kind of embraced that in a healthy way, because people will hear that and they just think, oh, I just got to buy all this inventory and the sales are going to come. That's not it. When I say it takes money to make money, that means investing in your resources, in your team, it's putting into your company and to get the best out of it. Because for so long, I wanted it to be just me or maybe one other person, because I was like, I don't want to have that big payroll and blah, blah, blah. And it's when I branched out, and in one of my companies that I own, because Andy and I collectively own and operate 11 different companies. And one of them, when I started to grow that and expand my team into a much larger team, that's when I started making money. And it was getting over that. So it's realizing there's smart ways to put your money out there that's going to be, better for you. And to put it the most simplistic way, if you are trying to have a scarcity mindset about money and you're trying to hoard it all for yourself, and you don't want to spend it on a team or invest in maybe it's a VA or some sort of contract employees, you're doing that. You're trying to run a whole company wearing 10 different hats, and you can't put 100% into all of those hats. By you spending the money to grow a team, to hire more resources for you, you're able to, one, keep your sanity, focus on what you do best, and have everybody else do what they do best, which creates a better product, a better experience for your customer. And that word of mouth is what's going to bring those funds back to you.
You know what, it's huge. I mean, I mentioned to you, Deneen, at the beginning of, before we went on, when I launched the company, launched my first company, I was doing everything myself. Even though I came from a corporate environment, I come from the magazine industry, and I was running 5 magazines for these South African owners. And that was fine. It's like I could do for others what I really couldn't wrap my head around that I was able to do for myself.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is I did the business, I go in, and then I'm thinking I have to do it all myself because I'm now doing it for myself. But doing it for yourself and by yourself are 2 completely very different things. And she ended up reaching out because she saw a post of mine, and she's like, Rachel, and she worked with me before at that magazine. And so she said, Rachel, why don't I have a baby, but why don't I just pay me whatever, let's figure this out. And so I couldn't even wrap my head around that. I was like, I don't know, because now I had to stop and think about how to train her or the steps. I had to put processes in place. And she was like, no, just tell me what the end goal is. And I will do the B2C. She goes, you're an A to B person. I'll be the B2C. I'll put the processes in place. And let me tell you, that's why I say she's a godsend to me, because even though, again, in the corporate world, I could do all that. I could do all the things, so to speak. But when you think about it, no, you can't. You have entire department heads. You're at the top as a publisher. For me, it's like being the COO or CEO, and you have your VPs and then your regional managers, and then so there's tiers to it, you guys. And so if you want to really expand, like Emily is saying, you've got to let go. It's the let go and let God that, everybody talks about, but you do got to be willing to let go and understand that the money factor is a flow. And if you just have it in your savings account, which I was doing, which is a disaster, any financial person will tell you, or if you're just holding on and you're holding too tight, it becomes stale and stagnant. And so it has to flow. So
something else I want to add with that too is that, the harder you go, the faster you flow. So when you do start to put that out there, it creates almost like a competitive nature within yourself of like, okay, I'm spending this money. Well, I better work really hard to make it worth it. And you start doing that. And then what's happening is it's not just you making sure your money's well spent or that, the investment is great. It's you putting in your best effort every single day. Because when you're saying like, oh, it gets stale, it gets stagnant, if you just like sit on that, it does. Because then what happens is you're more likely to slip into a place of complacency with that then, because you're like, oh, well, if all you tell yourself is like, I want to make $1 million and you make that, then what is there after that? Yeah. So it's continually like upping the game, chasing that, getting better, figuring out what the next pivot is.
I know that this time around, so for this business, that's what we're doing. So for this business, I've had to say, I was a single mom before and all this kind of stuff, and it was scary to make the money. It was scary to not have money. And then it was scary to make the money because, again, being super ultra conservative wasn't the healthiest thing for the business. It wasn't the healthiest thing for my family. And it wasn't the healthiest thing for my dreams of what I had in mind of what I wanted to do once I made the money. It took my mom to come in and say, hey, you're not even traveling. You're not seeing the world. You're at this level that most people will never reach in their life. What are you doing with that? And it was nothing. I was just working every day.
Yeah.
And so I left sort of a dead end, not a dead end, but a really high pressure career that didn't give me any freedom to go, oh, okay, I'm going to be my own boss, which that doesn't mean freedom. I created the same trap that I had before. The only difference is it was all on me now.
That's what people think. They think an entrepreneurship is like, oh, all this freedom. No, you are the last person that runs your schedule. Everything else, like you just kind of pick up the pieces.
Yes, it's absolutely crazy until you let go and you start to bring the people on and everything. And she had to come in, my mom, and say, travel, book it. Like, here, give you the card. And she became like our travel agent. And then next, she's like, next month we're going to Paris and you're going to be gone for 30 days. Let your team know. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? I can't do that. And, by week 3 of being in Europe, I was like, oh, yes, I can. It's fine. It's fine. And if you set your company up right, and you put the right people in place, or you have the right people on the bus, as they say, you will then be able to experience some of those freedoms. You're always going to have that sort of the heavy is the head that wears the crown feeling, but ultimately you can be able to sort of enjoy, the fruits of your labors if you get those people in place, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's something Andy and I are trying to navigate as well, because just with like all the different moving parts and stuff we have, it's hard to get away. And we actually just took our first vacation in February in 10 and a half years. So since our honeymoon, well, we've taken like business trips for speaking and stuff, but we're like, okay, we need to take like an actual like real vacation. So it was 10 and a half years. And we went somewhere for 6 days, I guess it was. And it was finally by like the 5th day, we were like, okay, we can relax a little bit. And then we went home the next day. So like next time we need to go for like 10 or 15 days to like be able to fully like, so we're trying to like learn that as well, because you're right. It's like, it's always going to be there. There's no emergency that happened while we were gone, nothing like that. But it's like, as entrepreneurs, it's like this is our baby, you know what I mean? And you care so much about it and you want to be there. And there's so many, just like I said, moving parts, but we're trying, I want to get to that point where it's like, okay, we can leave and it's going to be okay.
It was hard. It was really rough.
It is hard.
I found myself, because I would do my daily meetings and then we had like weekly meetings with certain team members. So I was doing them from my phone on like in front of like, I forget what it was. It was like the Church of Notre Dame in Paris when we first got there. And so I was like, hey, good morning, guys. Okay, so it's like 5 p.m. over there. It's 8 a.m. over here. And they're like, are we really still doing these meetings? And she's on vacation. So I was still trying to be that sort of workaholic, but in cool places. So I was like in front of monuments going, look, guys. Okay, so let's get into the marketing. And then on the 3rd time I did that, one of the ladies goes, so we all got together. And I go, okay. And we all decided we're not answering your call. Like,
but that's good though. That they care. They want you to enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, just go away. We'll be fine. So it's important to get to that point. Let's see. Okay. So we're back to balancing work-life balance. That's the next thing, balancing work-life. So you though, in particular, because I'm certain, you have a larger than life husband as well. Let's talk about this. I've had this conversation with Elena. I am like, how do you do this? Like, I'm not even going to frame it. Let's just go. Yeah. Like, okay. What does that look like for you? Because you're building your own identity. Obviously, you have your own value. You bring a lot to the table on your own. But I think when you have a larger than life spouse, it could be a little off
Yeah.
or difficult. So can we talk about that?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually don't believe in balance. I think it's a blend and a bleed. It's finding out what works for you. I don't like the, blanket statements that people make of like, you have to have this work-life balance. Like there's a lot of times in growing a business that you don't have that opportunity to be like, okay, at 6 o'clock, phones are off. We're, family at that time. I mean, that's beautiful if you can make that work, but there's a lot of times in business that that's not doable.
Yeah.
So that's why we just say it's like a blend and a bleed. So for us, I'm the COO of 44/7 Media, which is our media company. So I run Andy's brand and, like through the podcast, 75 Hard, Otis and Charlie books, all that stuff. So I work with Andy as well. So what we do is it's always worked out great. We work together. I started working for him, I guess, 7 or 8 years ago. And the way we do it, it's actually been like beautiful how it's, worked out for us is we only talk about work during work hours. So I work from home a lot of times, and in my studio, I work there with my teams, and then I'll go up to headquarters about once a day. I'll pop in, check with my teams there that I work with, and just kind of get a scope on that. And I do like, our weekly meetings and things like that. But what we do is like, if he is at work or he's gone from the house, that's when we'll call or text each other about what's going on, work stuff. Or I'll go up there and we'll have a meeting. But then when he gets home, we have a tradition. He comes home, he'll walk in, we get the dogs, we go down to his car garage, we hang out there for about an hour, talk about the day, what's going on, what we want to do, all that kind of stuff. And then I come up to the house and I start making dinner. And then he'll come up, he'll finish any phone calls he has to do while I'm making dinner. And then we'll have dinner, we'll hang out and, watch TV. And then, we might, get a little bit of work done then as far as like just me with my own companies and him with his type thing. But that's how we make it work. And then, we don't have children. So we don't necessarily do the like once a week date night because every night is kind of like a date night because it is just us, and people like sometimes think that's weird, but it's like, it is just us. I mean, a lot of times I think the date night is amazing and necessary for parents. But for us, it's like we have that. So like, every night. So we'll go out, out every 2 weeks or something, but we're a lot of homebodies because we really just go from here to the office and back home. But I just think it's finding what works best for you and your spouse. Because when we first started working together, we kind of had to navigate that. Like, what does that look like? Because I know how busy his days are. So I wouldn't want to necessarily like pile on him during the day because he's trying to manage everything else. Well, then when he'd get home, I would ask him work stuff. And it's like, he just wants to like take his armor off for the day and just kind of like be home and not have to
and not think about that.
Yeah. So then that's when we decided like, okay, when during working hours, that's when we talk about work. At home, it's just us as a couple. So that's how we've made it work.
I think what's really interesting about that is that it's similar to how I was navigating the situation or the environment with my sons. So after my divorce, that's when I became an entrepreneur and did all that. And I had my 2 sons, and it was this thing where I was like talking about work 24/7, and they were actually helping out in the business. And one of my sons finally said, "Mom, can we not talk about work like after work?" And I go, "Well, it's never after work for me," is the thing, is how I felt. Like, it's never after work. Like, I don't know. I work from home. I built the business from home. I'm home. You know what I mean? And so it got me thinking exactly in those lines. And by the way, I go to like look at my camera and at you. I'm just going to like say this in the middle of the interview. And it's like I don't know if it looks like I'm looking at you or not, but then it's, okay.
You are. No, I was doing that too because I was looking up at you, and then it's like, wait, like it's like I never know on Zoom, like because you know what I mean. You see the preview, so
yes. So it does look like
if we look weird, we mean to be looking at each other. The big camera, or the little one, it's fine.
I'm like, what is this? I have the view where we're side by side, but it's like it's just crazy. So so with my sons, it was the same way. I had to create that line in the sand and not necessarily unplug, because I don't think that there's a such thing as unplugging when you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're a high level entrepreneur and stuff like that. So I had to draw the line in the sand. So I just did not talk about that. I could just be mom. And even though they were older boys and stuff like that, I could just be like, "So what's going on with you? So what's, just be in that." And that really helped me out as well. And so whether you're a single mom listening to this and you're like, "I don't know how to juggle it," the kids, they will get sick of hearing it at some point, and they sometimes just want mom. If you're married, sometimes your husband's just going to want his wife, like for you to be
Yeah.
in wife mode, whatever that looks like, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you can't like sneak off and like respond to that email or do
Yeah. But I
whatever.
think that also comes with honestly, just because when you are an entrepreneur and you're running your own business, you're passionate about it. So you care about it. And what do people talk about? They care about what they love. And so it's like, it's almost by default, we talk about our businesses, even though nothing's pressing, but it's like, oh yeah, I've got this new product launching and blah, blah. But it's like, it's hard to define like, yes, that's technically work, but it's also me just expressing how excited I am for something. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just, you're passionate. So that's what you're going to exude, you know?
I know. And that's the importance too of having some good friends around you. I have a little tiny, teeny tiny, little tight little group. And they're also entrepreneurial women. And so we're able to be like, blah, blah, blah. We call them our TED Talks. We do these little voice memos back and forth because we know that we don't always have people in our sphere that are as excited as we are. And we don't want to exhaust people around us. So we kind of go to each other to be like, oh my God, can you believe I'm having Emily on? And then it's like, no way, you know. And it's like a little cheering squad. And then I can be really calm and cool and be like, yeah, okay, it's just a normal,
Yeah,
way
but
of
that's
being
so
out
good
here.
that I think that's important for everybody to have that, because not only just because it's people that you can literally talk about business all the time to and they don't get sick of it, but it's also great to be able to bounce ideas off of them and stuff because they're in the game, they understand it. And so they might have, I always look at it like a relationship. You know, we've all been in some crappy relationship in our life and your friends are like, oh no, he's trash, he's a dirtbag, you need to break up with him. And you're like, no, I love him. And then you break up and then you see it from the outside in, and you're like, ew, they were right. What was I thinking? That's the same thing when we go to our friends with business ideas or whatever else. Is like, you may not see all the components of it, but since they're in the game as well, they'll be like, well, what about this? Well, what's your acquisition going to be on that? You know, they'll be able to point these things out to you that maybe you haven't thought of. So I think that is so key, is just to have, and what you said is it's that tight little teeny tiny circle,
Teeny tiny.
because when you ask 10 people, that's too many. You know, I have three really good solid
Yep.
friends I talk to just about every day, and they're the people that I bounce ideas off of. Or if I have to test a shipping on a certain product that I'm not sure how it's going to ship, I'll be like, hey, I'm sending you this, send me pictures when you get it. And it works out great because they're actually all over the country. So I can see how far the distance is. Like, hey, my friend in California got this and it looks like crap, but a friend in Texas got it, it didn't look so bad. You know what I mean? So I can actually like edit the way I do things with them.
I mean, that's exactly right. And I same thing every day. It's these little wins or little hang-ups. And even if we're not in full-blown conversation, even in voice memoing back and forth, it's, hey, I got a guy. Oh, really? Here, call this girl. I met her last week at lunch or whatever. And so even just that, and then,
Yeah.
it's really private and, it's not really out there for everybody. And you're right. If you have too many people, and I talk about this all the time on the Rachel Unpacked podcast, it's like, you got to get really great at trusting your instincts, and you got to get really great at trusting your decision making process, and not going to your mother, your father, your neighbor, your mom, your sister, to go, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Because if they're not on the journey that you're on, if they're not business builders, if they're not, they cannot even have the vantage point to give you the good advice. And if
Not at all.
anything, I saw a video of a woman who was launching a pharmaceutical product. It was brilliant. And she said she was at a dinner, and I think it was with family or somebody. And they said, so what are you doing? And she explains, all excited, right? What she's doing. And they said, oh, that'll never work. There's so much competition. And then that product, blah, 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 blah. And that she looked at and this person does not come from at all, is not even in the sphere of that business at all. And she looked at them and said, oh, is that what happened when you launched your pharmaceutical brand? And they were like, no.
Yeah, true.
You
It's
know?
true. Yeah, you can't listen to the peanut gallery on that when people don't have any idea what's going on, because it's not just because those people look at it from a purchasing standpoint, or like you said, like, oh, well, that's a lot of competition. They don't understand all the ins and out of marketing and, the different ways to capture audiences and to, get that acquisition from these people. And that's what thing is, like, don't listen to those people if they don't have any experience. If you're in a business, you need to talk to people that have actually business experience, that are on the same level as you or above you,
Yes.
to get some advice from. Don't any stock in anything anybody else says.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, let's talk about the faith factor. You talked about the flow of energy and, sort of blocking, your blessings, so to speak. What is your faith factor? You don't got to tell me your religion or something like that, but what are some of the practices that you use every day, whether it's self-talk, maybe it's soft music, do you meditate, do you pray? Like, what is your thing?
Well, you do know I'm an ordained minister, don't you?
So I did not. You're
I
an
actually
ordained
am. It's
minister.
funny. Yeah, somebody actually, this couple, I was speaking at an event in Ohio about 5 years ago, and they both owned my cookbook, and I was there speaking about health and nutrition, and I had my cookbook for sale there, and this couple met over my cookbook and they started dating, and then they got engaged last year and asked me to marry them. And
You
because, and
officiated.
yeah, and they met over my cookbook. So I flew to Ohio and married them last August. I got ordained just for them. But as far as, what is the faith factor with that? So, I am a big, big believer in, there is the higher power, that God is out there looking down on us. And I also believe in the universe. I believe all of that. And I've seen too many things in my life to deny that there is
Yes.
a higher power. And so every single night, I always pray. I say different prayers, but I always say, well, the one thing I always say is, and dear God, thank you for all you've given me today. If I wake up tomorrow with nothing more than I was given today, I will be grateful. That's how like what I say at the end of every single prayer. And then I practice gratitude every day. So every day when I wake up, I like slow mornings. I like to get up and kind of take my time getting ready and get in my inbox and kind of work through that. And I always write down 3 things I'm grateful for every single day, because it's really hard to be in a bad mood
Yep.
whenever you are grateful. So I always practice gratitude with that. I do, ask for I don't ask for things, but I ask for signs, or hey, just give me some direction, or let me hear from someone I haven't heard from today in a long time. And you know what I mean? So I'll ask for little signs and stuff like that. So yeah, I am a big believer in that. And I think that, there's too much in everyone's life to deny that there is something greater out there.
Absolutely. I am a Christian by way of Catholicism. And every time I tell people that, they go, well, not everyone can be perfect. Um,
Yeah.
but I will say to you, I started doing a thing recently where I say I have coffee with God. And I started doing it at the very beginning of the year. And I prayed. I've always been a prayer warrior, you can say. And but I really started getting outside. I live in a really beautiful sort of area where there's mountain views and birds and everything. And yet I'm always, in here working and stuff. And so I just said, you're going to have coffee anyways, whether you're going to meet a friend for coffee, you're going to have coffee on the go or whatever. Why not have it with God? So I make my coffee and I go outside actually to the front because it's a better view. And I just sit there and the birds come and it's so beautiful. And then I sip my coffee and I am praying. I'm having a conversation with God about all kinds of things. And I just kind of imagine that, he's sitting right next to me and, I kind of offload. Sometimes I'm crying. Sometimes the neighbors must be like, wow, she's at it again. But sometimes, it's just peaceful. Sometimes I
Yeah.
have nothing to say and I'm still sitting there and I'm like, I'm sitting with him. I'm still spending time
Yeah.
and I have nothing to say or think. But I always have mentioned that I make God my silent business partner, my counselor, because there are so many things where I don't know which direction to go in. I don't know if I'm going in the right way, like you said, looking for the signs. And so I take that time to go, God, you know my need, but here's what I think my need is currently.
Yeah.
I know that I trust that you'll solve it, but show me, bring the people that can get this done, And so I have these conversations with him, but I have it over coffee in the morning outside.
No, but I love it. And I think it's important though, too, because that's, I will do that. I have a little reading nook over here in my office and I'll sit there and I'll do that too. It's I'll just sit there and pray. It's and even like you said, you may not have anything to say, but if you just get outside and you look outside, it shows you how great, our lives really are and how much there is to appreciate in Mother Nature and what we've been gifted. And that alone, it puts you in a state of gratitude.
Yes. And you said something earlier too about the gratitude. When I raised my boys, I would say to them, hey, sadness and, gratitude and sadness can't live together. I mean, I get depression can be clinical and all this kind of stuff, but sadness and all, it's normal to be sad, but if those two don't live together, you can't be, upset and complaining about everything and also grateful. If you just can lean into gratitude, it solves so many things. And you can
Absolutely.
sit there and I've had to tell women sometimes, hey, life is heavy. There's a lot going on. If all you do is give grateful that you have shampoo to wash your hair with, there's women out there living somewhere that they had to cut their hair. They can't even afford shampoo. When I first got married, I couldn't afford shampoo and I had to cut my hair. There's so many things that we have to be grateful for. And so the fact that you have running water, electricity, sometimes you got to take it all the way down to that. Sometimes you got to, life is so hard sometimes, and you just have so much to complain about that you got to take it all the way down to, I'm here today. I woke up. I have clothes on my back. I have food on the table for my family. Whatever you got to take, I have electricity, whatever it may be. You got to take it sometimes down to those little grains of gratitude in order to pull you up. Those little tiny grains will pull you up and out of whatever that storm is that you're sitting in.
Yeah. And that's true because, I think that is what you just said is so key and very important to remember right now in the social media era where we see all the highlights and everybody's just flashing everything and showing things. And people, it's easy for them to slide down this slippery slope of like, well, I don't have this material item, let's say, or I don't have this or that, or I don't have this big house, or I don't have that. That is not something that you need to get down about. I think it comes from a place of, what I can appreciate, because here's the thing is like, when you are jealous of other people's success, you're also putting out in the universe, like, I don't want success because look at these people. I don't like them. So you're telling the universe, like, I don't appreciate that. So I don't want it. What we need to do is flip the script on that and say, you know what, that's a beautiful home, or that's a beautiful this and that these people have. I love that. And use that as inspiration to work harder while being grateful for where you're at in your life. Like some of the crappiest times in my life, I look back on now, I'm like, I am so grateful that happened, not just because of the lesson I learned, but it showed me really, frankly, how terrible things could be. And it makes me so much more grateful for my life now and grateful for the lessons I learned from that. So it's really just a mindset shift on that.
It's like you got to kiss a few toads to identify the prince, right?
Yeah.
Because if you end up with that really great guy in the beginning, you don't really know that he's a really great guy. And that's how it is just in life and in general, being able to, go through the hard times. I've been through severe loss. I lost my son. He was 25 years old. There's been so many things after my divorce that I would have never imagined that I could survive it. Yeah. And till this day, I can't comprehend how I get up every day in a good mood and do what I have to do for others, and showing up, and I speak publicly. I go on stages and I speak to women, and I do it. And sometimes I don't feel like it. Sometimes I just don't feel like it, but I do it anyways. And let me tell you, I every day have to lean into find things that I'm grateful for, because if I focus on what I don't have, I am going to lose myself. And when people ask me, how in the world are you able to do all that you've done with the loss? And I go, well, I had a choice to make. And here's what that looks like. I could sit here every day and be pissed about the time I don't get with him. I could sit there and go, oh my God, I didn't get to go to his wedding. I didn't get to meet his kids. I could sit here and make a huge list, okay, of 800-page book of all the things that I resent, that I know that were taken away from me. However, I choose to shift it and give immense gratitude and thanks to God for the 25 years that I got with him. And then I just go over those 25 years sometimes. Sometimes I sit there and I go, oh my God, I miss, little boy him. And then, I don't miss teenage him. Hey, listen, that was, we're not going to talk about that. But little boy him, baby him, little boy him, and then like obviously adult him. But I will tell you, I've had to just that simple shift, because if I didn't make that shift in my mind quickly, I had to do it very quickly, then I would be in a state that would make my other son feel like he lost his brother and his mother. And it is not easy, but it is worth it. And so when I go and I speak and everything, sometimes I don't feel like it. And I just go, you know what, I'm going to put it on. And it's not fake it to make it. It is truly just recognizing God has given me this opportunity to be in front of these women and tell my story, because I never know how my process of being able to cope or turn my pain into purpose is going to shift one of these women's lives and snap them out of it to go, I still got work to do here. I still have a purpose here, and I can keep going. So I love that we're talking about this gratitude thing in the faith factor, because I don't always bring it up in the interview. So it was meant to be to talk
about.
And
I think that's important what you said, about, shifting that perspective when you go on stage and things like that, is because when you are shifting from, if you're having a down day, you don't feel like that. And then you got to go jump on stage and do this. The thing is, it's shifting that mindset to be, you know what, I've got to put this face together and, get my act together, because I want to go help people that may be experiencing the same thing that I am right now.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that what you just said is brilliant. It's like, it's just shifting that and realizing like what is actually needed of you. And those people are in need of you at that time.
Yes. So many people will sit there and say, gosh, I want to be used for good things and I want to inspire people. And I say, be careful for what you wish for, because you are not an inspiration if you were born in a perfect family and had a perfect childhood and had a perfect marriage and had a perfect life. Like that does not inspire people. You know what inspires people? The struggle. It's those TKOs, like getting knocked down, and then the story of getting back up, and then the story of staying up. But that you can't inspire people if you were never down.
No, and that's the thing, is I think that's also something I get kind of, frankly, just fed up with on social, is these like perfectly curated lives, these perfect, I don't have bad days, and oh, this is so great. And this, who are you helping with that? Because that comes across just like you're bragging. Whereas like, you know what? Hey, you may see this part of me now, but here's where I was before. And this is the steps that I took to bridge this gap from who I was to who I am now. I was just XYZ person and now I'm this. So it's important to have that. And, I spoke to my old high school last week, to 14 and 18-year-olds. And I was really excited. It was actually one of the like most excited speaking experiences I had, because like I got to talk to, not just at my hometown, at my high school, but I got to talk to the age category that needs to hear this the most. Because when I speak to people, it's usually 30 to 60-year-olds at their, companies or, events, whatever it might be. And, the thing that those kids that I heard from them after it, and then also I had a few parents reach out to me on socials, they're like, I loved hearing that, because those kids needed to hear that you did this coming from where they're at right now. And that's the same thing as the way it is on social. So it's like, I feel like we have to make sure that, I hate the word authentic and transparent because it's so overused right now.
Right.
But we need to make sure that we share the struggles or what we went through, not word vomit and get hyper emotional and just like overshare, but let people know where you were and where you're at, because that's what inspires people. That's what makes people say, how did you do that? Can you help me more with this? This is where I'm at now.
Yeah. And I love that you went back to your high school, because I have thought about, oh my gosh, teenage me. We created a journal, and I know that you create some stuff as well. So we'll talk about that. But we created a journal, and we created the work, like the intentions workbook, but there's one little journey. It's just a no content, low content journal, but we called it Dear Me. And the idea came from the movie Interstellar, where Matthew McConaughey is kind of going back and trying to prevent himself from going out into space. If you've ever seen it, it's kind of complicated, pretty amazing. But I thought to myself, what if you could write a letter, just a little journal entry to your past self, to sit there and say, hey, you 16-year-old and scared because everything's I'm here to tell you from the future, it worked out just fine. And then what does that instantly do energetically to like heal you, right? And then you could then write a letter, and then on the left side, it's to your past self, and then on the right side, it's now that you have resolved that, and now that you've healed that, and you know that, how do you click forward? And what is future you now able to do because you've healed that? So getting into that really quick, tell us about your products. Tell us about your journals and the things that you create.
Yeah. So I've always loved stationery, office supplies, planners, all that stuff. So a couple of years ago, I guess it was 2018, I launched my first planner through my Fit Home and Health company, and which was like a lifestyle, life hack type of company. And so I was like, I'm going to try this and see if people like it. Because a lot of people, I am not a technology person. I don't like digital anything. I am still the person, I will print off a million pieces of paper just to have a tangible physical thing. And so I was just like, I want to try these, make a planner, see how they go. So I made a planner and launched them, and they just sold out like immediately. It was wonderful. And I was like, okay, now that was my test run before I actually launched the paper and plan company. So I did that for 2 years while I was building the paper and plan co on the back end. And then in 2020, I launched, which was so crazy to think about now, because here I'm selling planners during a lockdown when people can't go anywhere. Like, what are they going to write in their planner? Like, stay home, walk to the fridge, stay home again. You know what I mean? They're like, what are they going to do? And so I started that company, and then I hired my sister, who had wanted to work with me forever. She worked in the law community for family law for 16 years. So I finally hired her away and she started working for me. And we do a very high end. We always say like, we're not the cheapest, but I will argue that we are the best because I can deal with people saying, your products are too expensive for me. I could never have someone say your products suck. I don't want them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because we use very high quality paper, we use, we print them, we print things as locally as possible here in St. Louis or in the US, or, sometimes we do have to do imported items just because there's not manufacturers in the US yet that could do the things that we do. So we launch paper, we do planners, pens, we do like notebooks, office supplies, like journals, greeting cards, like die cut inspirational, like quote stickers. We have a little bit of everything. It's just really kind of like whatever I think is going to be fun. Like we have washi tape coming out. We do I found the manufacturer that manufactures Stanley tumblers. So I got in there and we did some Stanley tumblers, but we call them Planleys because it's like planner.
Yeah.
And so we do, we sell those things. We just like to keep it fun, like to keep it interesting. It's a great work environment. I have an all women operated team and they're just fantastic. And it's really one thing I'm really the most proud of about Paper and Plan Company. It's not just the products we create, because obviously every entrepreneur is going to love the products that they can make, right? But I love to create an environment for these women because a lot of them are moms and I have the work hours from 9 to 3. They can come in after they drop their kids off at school. They leave at 3 to go pick their kids up from school. They're able to come in and you don't need an 8-hour workday. They work 6 hours. They take a 30, 45-minute lunch. They have immense flexibility, but they all get all their work done and exceed expectations every single day. And I love that because I want to create an environment for them I feel like it's my obligation as a business owner to create an environment and a workplace that they feel great and they want to come into every single day. And that's what we've created. And that's one thing that I just like, and I just have so much pride for that. And the women that work for me, they're just absolutely fantastic.
You know what? The SHEEO platform and the project came of that same desire. We built the first company in 2015. Everybody was working from home. We did something that most people weren't doing, which is building a multimedia company from home though. Every magazine was always about the clout and what floor in the high rise you're in. And I'm in Southern California. I wanted to break up with the freeway. I wanted to break up with the planes, the trains, the automobiles. I just was done. And I was like, I wonder if I could do this from home and still feel legitimate doing it from home. That was number one. And number two, would anybody come and want to work from home? What does that look like? Because we did it in 2015. And so by the time COVID hit, we were like, oh, everyone's joining our world. And it was new to everybody else, but to us, we had been doing it. And so one of the beautiful things that came out of the Rachel Unpacked podcast, taking off at that time really big, too, was women saying, I want to learn how to work from home. I feel like I don't know how to focus. So being able to hand women these tools and structure their time and give them the tips that I was able to use, that Deneen uses, that everybody on our team uses, is turning into such a beautiful movement with SHEEO because now they know what's possible. COVID really, the pandemic really helped them expand their mind with the Zoom and the tools and the fact that you can do this from home. Now we're saying you've been doing it for other people. Let's talk about how you can do it for yourself, right? Start a side hustle or a business or whatever it may be. And so being able to work with moms is an amazing thing. Obviously I have an adult son now. I don't have littles running around. But so many of the moms that we've worked with do have littles running around. Deneen still has littles running around. So she's able to speak to that and to go, it's okay, but don't stop this amazing project you're working on because the dryer beeped. Make sure that you have your time block set up and give, respect to that schedule. So you creating planners, it's an important thing to time block and to structure your days out. And I always say, write in your target run, put the dog walks in there, put the target you run in there, put your gym time in there, put it all in there because you're right. You don't need to work 8, 9, 10, 12 hours to be effective. You just need super high output time blocks. And if you can do that, you're going to win all day long. And I find that work at home moms are really, once they get this down, they're amazing.
And that's the thing. It's like taking time on it. So something I use, have you ever seen a time cube or do you use a time cube?
No, I don't. No.
So I'll show you mine. So I use this all the time and it's truly doing what you're saying is I keep it in my desk and I time block out my days. It's like, and even though I don't have children, but it's the same thing. Like if I'm working here or in my studio, then it's easy for me to run back and forth because my studio is on our property still. And so I will run into the house and oh, I got to switch the laundry out because because I still am, even though, I run these companies, I am still very much so a homemaker. I like cooking dinner every night. Doing the laundry and things like that. And like, we are blessed with a house manager that comes over 3 days a week. And she just like is like a second me, you know what I mean? She helps out with the dogs and the cleaning and all that stuff. So like, I can't sit here and say like, I do it all and it's great. It's not like, you do have to have help. And that's the thing. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because I was for so long, but it's been the best thing ever. And she's just a great friend. And that's one thing I had a struggle with when I started working from home, because when I sold my first company, I started working for a friend and I worked there for 6 years or so. And then I quit there to finish writing my first cookbook and really focus on that, because I was only able to do it on the weekends or at nights. And it was going to take me probably 10 years to get this thing done, but I didn't have any time. And it was a very big adjustment to learn how to be an entrepreneur, but from home. Because when I was an entrepreneur in my early years, I was actually in a building all day, not at home. So I found this time cube. And so if you're watching this, you'll see this. But so what it does is like, if you block out your time, okay, I'm going to do 30 minutes of email in the morning. And that's what you put on your planner. So you turn this on and you put the 30 up. And you'll see it's a countdown on here, and it'll show you how much time you have left, like 29 minutes, 27 seconds. And then when it's done, it'll go boop, 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 like a little alarm and beep. And then you just set this. And this is great too, if you do have littles at home, for iPad time, or, hey, let's see how fast we can clean the house in 5, or how clean we get the house in 5 minutes. And you set it and make it a game. And this actually, as silly as it sounds, humans are competitive, and I compete with this thing to make sure I get all my stuff done. Because again, it's like, if I got up every time there was someone ringing the doorbell or the dryer going off, or like, I need to let the dogs out, I would be so ineffective in my days. So doing this, blocking it out, planning, like you said, planning when I'm going to go to Target. I plan my workouts. I plan when I need to run errands. I plan all of that stuff. And people think that's like almost excessive. But when you're operating from a state of getting things done, there is no other option. It's the way that you can go to bed every night and feel like, you know what, I achieved a lot today. I'm accomplished. I was effective. Because busy is not a badge of honor. It's let's be effective and productive.
Yes. Some of the most successful people that I've ever had the pleasure of meeting throughout my career do not work a ton of hours, and they don't work hard. That's the whole thing. So you got to work hard. It's like, no, they work smarter. And they're better with their money management skills. They're better with managing their time. And I always try to remind myself when I sit there and I listen to women talk about, oh my God, I don't know if I could start my business because I have so much going on, and they're like a housewife or they have a day job or whatever. I say, just remember, Warren Buffett owns like, I don't know how many companies. So when you think about these people that own so many companies and they have the same 24 hours that we have, and they're just better at managing their money. For every dollar they make, they know what to do with that dollar. And they're really great with managing their time. And so we really lean in on that conversation, because it was something that I had to learn working from home. Because when you're in the corporate environment, it's easy, the structure, everybody's kind of in flow. But when it's just you sitting there, the accountability can be really tough.
It's so hard. And it is. And I would love to say that, oh, I've got this down, which, like I always audit my week. Was it a winning week or was it a losing week? And I do that because I've always had the top 5 priorities. Andy's always done the power list. Like, it's funny because even before we knew each other, we met 17 years ago. He had this power list and I had my top 5. And as long as we get those things done, we're great. And it's a list of 5 things I put in my planner every day that I have to get done. It could be, a reaching out to someone else. It's doing book edits for the next book. It's like, whatever it is, I make sure that's accounted for. And then after that's done, my work day is pretty much over. Some days I can be done with my day in 2 hours. Some days it may be a 10-hour day to get those done, but it's what frees me. What makes me feel good. It's like, it gives me that freedom to know, like, okay, well, you know what? On Tuesday, I'm going to be able to knock those things out. In the afternoon, I can take a really long walk, or I can, I'll call a girlfriend and we'll chit chat or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's really just about, like you said, managing your time, managing your money. And when you manage your money, that's when you can start building really good teams in place if you do need that. Or if you are a solopreneur, that's when you can hire a virtual assistant if you need to help alleviate some of those things for you at a pretty, insignificant cost. And, you can get a VA for 3 hours a week. That's what I started with when I thought I needed someone. I hired someone for 3 hours a week, and that was it. And she helped me tremendously, because me paying her 3 hours a week to do things that I didn't know how to do, that was the thing. It took her 3 hours a week to do. It would have taken me probably, honestly, 10 to 12 hours that week to do, because I was not skilled in what I had hired her to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Tell us about arete. Am I pronouncing it right? Arete.
You got it. Yeah.
All right.
So arete is a Greek. Yeah. It's a Greek word that means excellence. And Andy and Ed had met years ago, and we were at an event and we were backstage. They're both speaking, and we were chit-chatting about it. And then we had a phone call later on that week, and we were like, let's start an entrepreneur group that's high level instructions, very tactical, that is really going to help people and to help change the world, because we are not a frou-frou, rah-rah like type of group. It's like every single week there's a super tactical call on what you can learn. And we have, we like to have themes with it. So it's like you can learn so much no matter what level of business that you're at. And then we do live events with several thousand people, or we'll do small summits, which will be maybe 100 to 150 people. And then we bring in some really great speakers. Maybe, it's like either high level like entrepreneurs and business owners, or maybe they were a, celebrity or athlete, and we tie in like the lessons that they learned in that and things like that. So it's just been an amazing community, because everybody in there is just like, the networking is insane. Like the amount of businesses that have started, the amount of people that, like, if you get in our Facebook group, we have a private Facebook group, and be like, hey, I need somebody that can do blah, blah. Immediately there's 25 suggestions and referrals. And it's just like,
Oh, wow.
it is, the power is in the network with that. And Andy and Ed just do such a great job leading our members through this to like get through a biggest thing was like through COVID, getting everybody through COVID of like, here's what you can do financially. Here's what you can do in your business. Here's how you keep your team on and not lay people off during this time. Here's some financial advice for this. And it just really to help people, give them the tools to help them create a better life. Because let's be real, when you are a business owner and you have employees, you're not worried about yourself anymore. You're worried about your employees. You're worried about, how many employees do I have? Now I am responsible for feeding 15,000 mouths every week and their families, and making sure their kids have clothes and food on the table. It adds a different type of pressure. And it's getting these people like that are members, like getting them to like that point of like, it's going to be okay. Here's what I need to do. So RT is just, it's so powerful. It's amazing community. It's just great, high quality individuals. And we have a call tonight. I'm so excited for it. I love them every Wednesday.
So is there anything else that you're working on that you want to share with the team? Or with the team?
Not at this, no, nothing I can really share yet, but yeah, there's always something brewing.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like it. What are 3 things that you wish you knew before you became an entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh. I wish, okay, so I kind of have a different approach to this, because my dad was not an entrepreneur. Like I shared earlier, I saw the hours and the time that it took for an entrepreneur to put in, and like what the fruits of your labor would get you. So I wish, one, I would have dropped my ego when I first became a business owner, because I was 20 years old, had a beautiful facility. I had like it was a luxury gift boutique, flower shop, tuxedo rentals, and wedding planning. And I had a very big ego, because at 20, I thought like all my friends were going to college and stuff. I got my associate's degree. I went to school for 1 year, 6 days a week. Yeah. And I was like, I hated school. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do this thing. So I started a business, and I thought that it would just be my DNA, because my dad was successful. And I was like, oh, I got this. And my ego would not let me ask for help or ask for questions. And that's why I referenced earlier, like I got myself into financial situations, because I didn't know anything about business really. You know what I mean? So I wish I would have learned to humble myself, to ask for help. I wish I would have found a stronger friend group earlier on that were aligned with my goals and actions, because I feel, had I not felt some sort of strange false loyalty just because I grew up with people my whole life that I had to be friends with them my whole life, which, don't get me wrong, I'm still friends with them. They're great people, but we're on different paths in life. So I wish I would have made that jump a little bit more and kind of distance myself from relationships that weren't serving me, and started to invest and go to more events and community events where I could find people that aligned with my goals and visions. And then third, I think it's really just looking, if you're single and you're dating, it's looking for those red flags of people that aren't going to support your dreams, because that can be the absolute thorn in your side and ruin your company before it even gets going. And I sold my first company because of a bad relationship. I was like, fine, I'll just sell it, because I quote, work too much. And it's just something, now I look back and it was a blessing, because then we broke up, and then I met my husband a year or so later. But it's one of those things where it's really just like auditing your circle, I think, is all around, like humbling your mind, auditing your circle, and realizing what's good for you. And maybe a little fourth one is go heavy in personal development. Stop reading. And I love to read. I have a book club, as you know, but it's like, stop reading all these 50 Shades of BS type of books. read books that are going to advance you. If you read a book and you get one little bitty sliver of a nugget of information, that book was worth it. So really put time into your personal development.
Oh my gosh. I have heard from so many women that are married. I co-host another show called You Deserve Fresh Lettuce with my friend Delia. It's a marriage divorce show, but one of the things that I was saying over there is in coaching women and in hearing these one-on-one stories and even the messages in my DM, what I notice when women finally make the decision to go all in and start a business and everything, and they are really motivated and driven by doing this, not for themselves. Almost all of them say, for my family, I want to be more present as a wife. I want to be more present as a mom. I want to, walk the dog, at noon if that's what I want to do. And so they get very motivated in the beginning. And then once they start, if there's traction, if there's real movement, I start to notice that all of a sudden it's, oh, I know we were supposed to do this, but I can't do that now because my husband said we needed da. And the pattern that I notice is that the husbands, I don't know if they become insecure, some of them, they start to go, well, what is this? Oh, wait a minute, I thought it was like a hobby. Now it's turning into something else. And these mounting sort of energies or pressure starts. And I've seen very beautiful fit women that are so focused, the light starts to go like this. And they start to put like it all starts to go to the back seat, and they start missing the calls because we have like some accountability stuff. And I just go, what is this? And I look back to my marriage, and my career took off really fast. And it was a thing where I wasn't to talk about it. I could tell it's like, don't talk about it. Oh, you met this really famous person today? Don't talk about like, just be like, how was your day, babe? And
because
it's hard.
Oh. Go ahead. No, I was saying you see their passion dim into you're now, instead of you wearing your passion, you're wearing guilt because and I think it is an insecurity thing. Like that's what I've always like gotten so upset about with is why would you, whether husband or wife, it doesn't matter, but why would one significant other get upset with the other for working so hard to build a life that they are a part of? It does not make sense. Like I am working so that way we can have this, we can do this, we can do this, our kids can have this. That's the point of it. So why I think it is complete insecurity because they're like, wait, you're shining a little too bright now. Can you dim it down? And then pretty soon they just fizzle out. And it's so sad to see because how many great ideas or great businesses were launched and quickly put out because of that.
You're absolutely right. So I mean, I will tell you one of the things that I'm currently facing is with my old business. It's still in business. It's still doing its thing. And I love this other business I'm doing. And even in that, it's not a marriage. It's not a relationship, so to speak, but it is a baby that I'm like, I've outgrown that. I feel like it served its purpose in my life and I'm ready to break up with it and to give myself permission to make an exit or, let it ride on autopilot in its own way and then move over here and go all in. And so even that guilt factor doesn't just happen with your kids or with your partner. It can happen with a business that you built originally, that you have a little claim to fame and everybody maybe knows you for that. And then now you're like, well, I don't want to, decorate homes anymore. I want to actually be a content creator. And then it's like, what? Right. Yeah. So you can get that guilt too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to say that when you're saying that, I'm like, yep. Because when I launched my first two books were healthy living cookbooks. My third book is a leadership book. So when I had my cookbooks, I started my whole entire business online of clean, healthy, easy to make recipes. And that's how I started the whole thing back in 2015. And by posting on Facebook and, I started posting on Instagram whenever that came about, years later. But I built my whole following through Facebook, and then I did it through Snapchat, and I did this thing called Snaptorials, where every single day for 14 months straight, I posted a new recipe that people could follow, screenshot it, make the recipes, all of this stuff. And then as I got more into, other businesses that we have and wanting to do the paper and plan company, things like that, my whole, me being, quote, Chef Emily, kind of went to the wayside because I had like menus at 5 different restaurants here in town. Like it was great. It was so much fun. And I still love to cook, but I outgrew it where I was cooking for, quote, show. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, that just wasn't my passion anymore. I had done it. That kind of like lived its life. And I did feel a sense of guilt of like, well, what are people going to think if I just abandon this? Or what are people going to think if this? But then I had to realize I don't like it. The people online, yes, they support me, they buy my cookbooks and things like that. But a lot of people, follow you and they don't ever support you. They just follow you for something to like and share or whatever. And I was like, I need to do this for me. So I kind of transitioned out of that, and I still sell my cookbooks and things like that. But it was something where I went all in on more of the personal development, leadership content, started the paper and plan company, working with RJ Syndicate, working with our media agency, all of that. So it's like, it's okay to have a quote rebirth through your career. And that's why I always say I'm a multi-passion entrepreneur, because I don't like the word serial entrepreneur, because I think that's that means you tried it and you failed it. Most of the time it's like, I like to say multi-passionate because I do like to do a lot of different things, but I was known for being a healthy living cook. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm going to have to change mine, because I do say, oh, I'm a serial entrepreneur from Southern California. Because
I don't.
No, yeah, but I say it because I don't know what the other word is, because it's like omnipreneur, like I'm an omnipreneur.
I just made up multi-passionate entrepreneur, and it just seems to work. So, well, because everybody says serial entrepreneur, and there's a lot of different like little crevices with that. You know what I mean? Because like what you're saying, yeah, you've done a lot of things, but it's also because you're multi-passionate, you've done a lot of things. So by multi-passionate, I feel that exudes of multi-passionate, that the businesses were all successful, and you know what I mean? It's like, and then you make the choice of what you want to put your time in.
Exactly. Yeah. I broke up with it. It didn't break up with me.
Exactly.
All right. So we are going to round this off. Do you have anything to say about imposter syndrome before we close out?
Oh my gosh, you're always going to have it. You'll never outgrow it. People are always going to have it. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 21 years, and I still have that. I still look, why are people listening to me? Why are people reading my captions on Instagram? You're always going to have that. So don't wait till you don't feel like you have imposter syndrome, because you'll be waiting until you're literally 6 feet in the ground.
Literally, exactly. All right. So where can they find you?
The easiest way to find everything else is just go follow me on or check me out on Instagram at Emily Frisella. The link in my bio has all my other stuff in it.
Emily, thank you so much for coming on. It has been so much fun and such a pleasure. And ladies, again, check it out. If you want to see the footage, you can go inside the SHEEO platform and you can become a member there. And this is the first episode that I'll be announcing that the SHEEO Latina platform is going live in Spanish, identical to the English version. But if you have somebody that you know that speaks Spanish only, that platform live. So thank you. Check it out.
Thank you.